Welcome back, focused learners. I am seriously thrilled to have you here for another explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating, high-stakes aspect of organizational strategy. We're asking, how exactly do leadership teams navigate super complex decisions without totally losing their moral compass? Well, we're going to explore a really powerful evaluation framework, specifically focusing on what happens when companies push their strategic choices right up to the very edge of the law. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll quickly hit ethics by the letters, then the plus model unpacked, defining legal boundaries, the tick box mentality, integrating the 4 pillars, and finally beyond the legal limit. Let's just jump right in. Section 1. Ethics by the letters. To kick things off, let's just think about the inherent challenge of business strategy. When you're formulating massive corporate moves, relying on a simple gut feeling, that just won't cut it. You need something way more concrete. Look at the sheer complexity of business choices mapped out right here. It's like a giant puzzle. You've all these competing inputs, stakeholders demanding different things, the raw context of the situation itself, and of course, the personal biases of the decision makers. All of these feed into this chaotic web of alternate actions. You literally have to evaluate the impacts of every single path before you can even hope to pick the optimal choice. Honestly, it's pretty much impossible to keep all those moving parts in your head at once. Section 2. The plus model unpacked. So to prevent decision makers from missing any critical perspectives, organizations use a very specific acronym to tackle these dilemmas head-on. Meet the 4 pillars of that framework. The plus model. P stands for policies, L is for legal, U for universal, and S for self. When a leadership team is evaluating a new strategic initiative, they use these 4 distinct lenses to view the action from multiple angles, all at the exact same time. Now, the crucial takeaway here is that this isn't just some sequential checklist you tick off one by one. It is a simultaneous evaluation tool. It ensures that managers are weighing their internal rules, external laws, corporate culture, and personal morals, all at the exact same time. That is how you create a truly holistic strategy. Section 3. Defining legal boundaries. Okay, let's zoom in strictly on the L in our model, the legal pillar, and see exactly how it shapes and, quite frankly, sometimes restricts corporate ambition. To truly understand the legal pillar, we have to juxtapose it against policies. See, policies are internal. They dictate company procedures. Think of things like your dress code or how you file expense reports. The legal pillar, on the other hand, represents rigid external boundaries set by governments. Policies? Well, they can be rewritten by the CEO on a random Tuesday. Legal boundaries absolutely cannot. Violating one gets you a meeting with HR. Violating the other gets you federal fines. Big difference, right? Let's look at how this actually plays out in the real world. Imagine a massive corporate-level strategy decision, like expanding your operations into a totally new geographic market, let's say China. The decision makers have to heavily evaluate the legal boundaries of that specific region. They're asking things like, will our current operational procedures conflict with local rules? What happens when state regulations demand one thing, but national laws demand another entirely? Our sources actually highlight a fascinating case study on this exact friction. Just imagine a utility company that starts aggressively buying up its competitors, eventually taking over 80 to 90% of the North American market. Now, internally, their policies might totally applaud this kind of massive growth, but externally, they collide violently with the legal pillar, specifically antitrust laws. The government steps in, proving that external laws act as the ultimate hard stop to internal ambition. Section 4. The tick box mentality. But here's the thing. This legal hard stop introduces a new, really hidden danger. Let's discuss the consequences of over-relying strictly on this external legal pillar. Take a second to just absorb this insight from our sources. It captures such a dangerous evolution in corporate strategy. When leaders are terrified of disciplinary action, they actually stop asking, hey, is this right? And start asking, wait, is this illegal? They become entirely focused on avoiding punishment rather than actively pursuing what is ethical. This creates what our sources call a tick box mentality. It strips away actual ethics and leaves a huge void. The trap here is assuming that if the law doesn't explicitly forbid an action, then by definition, it must be perfectly acceptable to do. It becomes a race to the bottom, where your strategy operates entirely in the gray area, right up against the legal boundary. Section 5. Integrating the 4 pillars. So, the big question. how do we fix this? How do we protect a strategy from falling into this really dangerous tick box trap? Well, we bring the rest of the plus model back into the picture. I want you to ask yourself right now, is legal compliance truly enough? If your company is merely following the law, are you actually acting ethically? Our framework argues a definitive no. External laws are always going to fall short if you lack an internal moral compass to guide the actual intent behind your strategy. And this is exactly why the plus model is so brilliant. It balances that external L with the internal U and S. The universal pillar asks, does this actually align with our corporate culture and vision? And the self pillar forces the individual to look inward. Does this align with my own personal moral compass? It ensures decisions aren't just technically legal, but they're fundamentally right. To truly integrate these pillars, our sources outline a solid 4-step framework. First, you've got to confirm the facts entirely without emotion. Second, lay every alternative out openly, no matter how questionable it might seem. Third, group those choices based on utilitarian consequences to figure out what does the most good overall. And finally, apply the full plus model to those options. Sure, it takes time, but it builds an impenetrable, highly ethical strategy. Section 6. Beyond the legal limit. All right, let's wrap up this explainer by summarizing what it really takes to navigate these boundaries successfully. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. The law is just the baseline. It is absolutely not the ceiling. Checking the legal box might keep your leadership team out of jail for sure, but evaluating your strategies through the full plus model, that is what actually builds a legacy of trust. So next time a massive corporation makes headlines for a controversial strategic move, ask yourself, did they just check the legal box, or did they have the courage to evaluate the whole picture? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.